Wow, that was awesome. That was awesome. My name is DiMemmo, VCS CEO, founder, and president. If you had asked me when I first started this company if I'd ever be doing a conference for all of you people in Atlantic City at Harrah's, I would have said no way. We started it 1998, so we're hitting a milestone. We started thinking about doing something like this in 1998 to help a local police department, automate their schedules. They had a few problems that we had to handle, minimum staffing levels, overtime assignments, and it just evolved from that point. And we've done a couple things throughout the years. I also hit another milestone this year. This is my 30th year writing programs. Okay, 30 years, 3 decades I've been writing programs. And you want to talk about some changes. Think of being a computer programmer in 1987. Okay, people thought you wore propellers on the back of your heads, you had pocket protectors, you couldn't get girls. If we wanted to get a girl, we'd say we were a cop. Life was different. Life was different then. People really didn't understand what a computer programmer does. I didn't understand what a computer programmer does. All I knew is he put on a tie, went to New York City, and he did something, and then something happened. What I found in computer programming, that was my art. I loved it. I love computer programming. I love human resources. I just like everything that we do. This is probably the best job that I could ever have, and I've loved it every step of the way. It's kind of my creativity, okay? I can't paint, I can't sing. If we ever do karaoke, you'll see that. But I can create something on a computer. I can sit there and I can write something, and it can come out and it can help a whole lot of people. And that was started from the very beginning. I'd like to introduce a very important person in my life, a very special person. I asked my mother to show up today. Janice, meet the gang. In the early 70s, yes, in the early 70s, I was probably a troubled youth in my mother's eyes, and a lot of people's eyes too. Didn't quite know what was going on, surrounded by overachievers, and then here I was. And my mother was my inspiration. She taught me one thing, 2 things, 3 things, but it all revolved around the same thing. Do the right thing for people, and the right thing will come back to you. Have an awesome work ethic, but most importantly, she's the most optimistic person I've ever met in my life. We grew up knowing the glass was always half full. We never looked at it as half empty. So for that, Mom, this is what's happened. I've taken that from 1987 to 2017 with that in mind to build software programs for everyone. So I'd like to appreciate your, thank you very much. So let's jump up to 1998, where we first started. What had happened was I was a programmer in New York City, and I'm sure people have heard this story before, but I was a programmer in New York City, and a local police department came to me, and they said, well, we need to automate our schedule. We have 2 major problems going on right now. First problem is that we work 24/7. We don't know what anyone's balance of time is. So we have to go back to payroll. Someone takes a day off. All of a sudden, they don't have any more vacation time. They're out of comp time. And we didn't know when we were going to do it. So we have to know what their time is. The second thing that we had to do is we had to make sure that our minimum staffing requirements are being met. So we set out with those 2 ideas. Minimum staffing requirements tells me that I need staff. Why do I need staff? Because somebody took a day off. So we're calculating those 2 ideas, and to us, we thought we were finished. Okay? I thought, hey, we took care of those 2 things, thought we were finished. That was in Princeton, New Jersey, okay, which is in Mercer County, if anyone doesn't know where it is. So once word got out that we had written this scheduling software for police departments, then we started to snowball. And people started coming to me saying, hey, we'd like to get on this, but we have some ideas that can make it a little bit better. So from the very beginning, from 20 years ago all the way up until today, we've relied on people like you to let us know what's going on in your industry. I had some conversations with people this morning. I had conversations with people last night that are still telling me things that I'm very enthusiastic about building. Okay, so we have to look at these things and we have to say, okay, what is needed in your industry? We have to make sure that it's not specific to your department and it's good for the whole entire industry. Okay, so we started doing that. So that's always been the way that we've done, looked at our software. So after we worked in Princeton, Princeton was great. We kind of rolled that stuff out. We started going into other departments. Next one was Ewing Township Police Department. What they had was, we took another spin on it. Now we had to start looking at overtime. So now overtime is done fairly. Now I always figured, hey, somebody just wants to work. I worked at some places where we got overtime. It was just the first person who wanted to work, got the job, and that was the end of it. Well, in the police department over at Ewing, they had a rotating list. Okay, so let's look at a index card file. Okay, so the very sophisticated application they had over there. They had an index card file. The first person picked it up, called him up, would you like to work, wrote his name down on the piece of paper, and then put it in the back of the list. Okay, so he went to the back of the list. Wow, we can do that. We can do that with a computer. Okay, we can do that exact same thing that you're doing manually. So we looked at that and fairness rotation, which is now called replacement policy, which is going to be called staff selector. Okay, so we're evolving with the times. So we took that idea and we added some automation to that. Then somebody else came to me, I think it was back in Princeton. They said, well, this is all great. Now we're calculating overtime. We're figuring out when people want to take off, and we're making sure that they have the time. But why can't we do payroll? Okay, why can't we do payroll? All this information that we're putting in is the basis of what we put into our payroll timesheets. Okay, so now payroll was created. Okay, time and attendance came a little bit after that. Training came a little bit after that. Court module came a little bit after that. All of these things, we're realizing that people are taking off to go do something else. They're not necessarily just taking off to go to the beach and have a good time, but they're taking off to do other parts of their jobs. And if you're a patrolman and you're not in that radio car, you're sitting over in court, we need to cover for you. So it really doesn't matter if you are taking off because you're going to court or you're going to training or you're going to the range or whatever you're doing. We still need to cover that job. So we started looking at all of those other things, and then so the system was building and building and building, and we started getting larger and larger customers, and then extra duty billing came in. I was up in Scarsdale, New York. I was talking to those folks over there, and they introduced me to extra duty billing. I had no idea what it was. I figured you guys just did that, as your regular job. I didn't realize that it was something that you did off duty. So again, extra duty billing, we had to bring in the rules of the regular scheduling. Okay, so what we did was we said, okay, well, I still have to work 16 hours in a row or whatever it is, but that includes extra duty billing. Scarsdale, New York was about a 30-person police department, maybe 40-person. So it's very simple what we had to do. So then we brought that in. Then we went down to Richmond, Virginia. Now, Richmond, Virginia took it to a whole different level. 1,000 policemen, all doing extra duty, different districts, and coordinators. These people called coordinators. It wasn't just one person anymore doing it. You had people responsible for different things. You also had people with different skill sets and trained differently to work in some of the other places. So we had to start factoring all of those things in. Maybe someone's not eligible to work for this particular job. So we started looking at putting rules into extra duty billing. We decided to put a lot of rules into our system. And then that's when we really started looking at, this is a rules-based system. Where else can we put rules in? Payroll, training, creating open shifts, validation rules, all kinds of things like that. As a matter of fact, today I'm going to be showing you a demonstration of a really awesome product that we created called Effortless Scheduling, effortless staffing, I'm sorry, and you don't even need to, if you base your rules properly, we can create open shifts, we can do a bunch of things and award those open shifts without anyone's intervention, okay? So that's how we got started. We started out listening to people, how they wanted to work, what they needed to put into their system, but we had a problem. We had a big problem. At that time, we had about 100 customers, and we had 100 different solutions. Anyone remember Legacy? Is anyone still on Legacy? Okay, you're still on Legacy. We did away with Legacy in 2012, so congratulations for finally coming on board. We didn't do away with it, we're still supporting it, but we came out with our new products in 2012. But let's go back to the Legacy people. Okay, so where are you? Okay, so now if you look in Legacy, there's a lot of different things that do the same thing, right? A lot of different menu options. You might see things in there that pertain to a particular customer, things like that. So that was one challenge that we had to get over. We wanted to accommodate everyone's need that we did, but we didn't want to have special programs for that one person so that when another customer would come out and want to use that, we didn't want to have to force that person to use something that is meaningless to them. So then we started looking at configuration of reports and different things, and just little check boxes would just change the whole function of what we were doing. Okay? And that brings us up to today. So what we have is today, 2017, we've rolled out a new product. We're still handling Legacy. We're trying to get everyone to move over into our new products. This Legacy system is very, very old. 1998 is when we started. Last time we updated it was about 1995. So we really want everyone to move over into the new system. In 2012, we rolled out what we called Schedule App, which was an application that brought in some new technology and brought in some new ideas. And all of these things that we learned during our Legacy product, we put into Schedule App. This year, 2016 and the 2017, we're totally web-based right now. Okay, so we've taken our product and put everything onto the web. It's kind of where we wanted to be in the first place. We wanted everyone to be on the web. Now, what the web is going to do for you, and especially if you're on our cloud, is you're going to be able to immediately get updates as soon as they're available. Okay, if you're not on our cloud and you're not using our web product, then it's a task to actually update all of your computers and all of your workstations and all of your databases and everything. When you're using our cloud and using the web product that we have, we're going to be able to update your product. We're going to be able to update your database immediately and keep everyone in sync. Okay? So let's talk about 2017 right now. So we made a lot of enhancements to the software, and a lot of things happened to our company. The one thing that I was very, very proud of that happened to us this year is we applied and we were accepted into the Inc. 5000 fastest growing company list for 2016, which is awesome because when I went out to Southern California for the presentation, I noticed that there was a lot of startups there, a lot of people that had grown very quickly, very fast in the very beginning, but we were an established company. So that kind of put us in a whole nother level. And this year we were honored to be one of the fastest growing companies according to Inc. magazine, privately owned companies. So that was a great accomplishment that we had. We also launched Jobs for Blue. Now, this also came from something that we saw happening within the industry. Jobs for Blue is where we become your extra duty billing module. Okay, it's using our systems, so the information is within the POS system or whichever system you're using, and we're the coordinator. Now, there were a couple things that were going on that we found out, and there was a little bit of a problem out there. People working these jobs weren't getting paid in time. We were waiting for the vendors. Either that or the cities had to front the money, and pay the police officers. So those were two little problems that we found because there's two rules that's being violated right there. And the only way to get around those two rules is to pull in an escrow, and then that escrow has to be managed, which we also do that. So there's one rule that's a labor law rule that says when somebody works for you, you have to pay them in a reasonable amount of time. Now, usually that reasonable amount of time means 2 weeks, okay, or by the next pay cycle. So you have your cities breaking that rule by making you wait until the vendor pays you. That's okay. The second rule that we're in violation of with this idea is that if we don't collect an escrow but we pay the police officers up front, there's another rule that says you cannot pay, we cannot use taxpayer dollars to fund or give a loan to the contractor, which is what you're actually doing. Okay? So we looked at these things and we said, okay, well, we don't have to live by the rules of the city, right? We don't have this silly taxpayer rule that we can't fund the job. So we rolled out Jobs for Blue, and basically what we're doing is extra duty billing for everyone. We're following the rules of your police department. So whatever rule you have, seniority rules, nothing's going to change. Your city still retains the administrative fee that they were getting before. I don't quite agree with that, but it is what it is. And then also, we just attach an additional fee to the customers. And so it's $0 to the city, and we're doing a lot of the work, and we're funding the jobs. So it's really something that you want to look at. It's been very successful. Ricky's over in the back if you guys want to talk to him later, or pull anyone in the staff and talk to them later about that. But we've been doing it since January, and it's been a huge success. We have 4 customers that we're doing it now. Everyone's getting paid, and we're collecting from the vendors. And someone said to me, well, what do the vendors think about you adding another fee? The answer is they don't care. They really don't care. Not one person has said anything about that. We are the smallest portion of that fee. So they're not saying a word, and we're actually treating them like valued customers, not saying anything about your cities, but we're treating them. So if there's a change, we're calling the customer and saying, hey, Johnny's not coming, Tim's coming. And so we're keeping in constant contact with them. Also, we have a little bit of different ways to collect money than the city does. We've been collecting money for 20 years from government, which aren't real good payers. So we've figured out a way to collect money from people who don't want to pay their bills. Okay, so that's Jobs for Blue. I definitely, ask or talk to one of us if you're interested in that. A couple of the other enhancements that we did this year is we took our clock hand scanners and our kiosks for Norfolk, Virginia, and we created a court check-in. So what it does is it looks like the person just punching in, and then it automatically puts them on overtime for court. Okay? So we can do something like that. We can use existing technology that we have, and then add items to that. Okay, the next best thing that we did that I'm going to bring up right now is that we've created effortless scheduling, effortless staffing. So what does effortless staffing do? Back to our talking to customers and finding out what their needs are. In the very beginning this year, New Jersey Transit Police were looking at our systems and needed a better way to award open shifts. Okay, so we looked at the how we're going to create open shifts and how there was going to be much more of a sign up. So what we had in the past was when we wanted to hire overtime, we'd have to call someone up on the phone. They'd have about 10 seconds to figure out if they want to work or not. So we went into this idea that why don't we just allow people to sign up for it? So I'm going to demo something for you right now, and I'm going to walk you through the whole process. The first part that we're going to look at, that was brought to us by Penn State University Police. What they wanted to do was create overtime opportunities based on validation rules. So they didn't want somebody to have to go in there and and look at it and say, hey, we need someone, let's create an opportunity. And so let's run the demo. You ready, Scott?
All set.
Okay, great. So I'm going to walk you through this. So the first thing we want to look at, Scott, let's see how we can configure the settings.
So under the configure the settings, we have some features that we have to add for the overtime functions. So one of the things that we have to do is set up some rules based on our open shifts. And this process has the ability to be very automated in nature. So you'll see on the screen here, just below my open shift rules, we have a couple new components. One says automatically create open shifts when validation fails 5 days into the future. And the other one is automatically award open shifts 48 hours before the shift starts. So these are two sections that are very new to the software. And basically, the functions we're going to show you in a few minutes, they need to know, okay, when should I start these processes? If my shifts are failing validation, if they're failing validation a month ahead, well, maybe we're going to have schedule changes before then, so it's not a concern. But at 5 days or 10 days, whatever is appropriate for your agency, you may decide that we need to start creating open shifts to start getting coverage. So that's what the automatically create open shifts when validation fails 5 days in the future is. So it would look for today, and starting 5 days from today, it'll start creating open shifts for anything that it needs, and obviously anything in between. The other part is the awarding component. So as you're aware, with open shifts, you create an open shift, and at some point in time, it needs to be awarded. So the automatically award says, once I put the shift out there, I'm giving people an opportunity to sign up for it, but at what point in time do I actually start to award the process? And that's where the 48 hours component comes in. Now, that is specific to a fully automated, effortless staffing model we have, where you actually don't even need to run anything from your computer. It would say service that actually creates the open shifts, and it also awards the open shifts. We have two ways to do this model. One is what we consider an on-demand component, and the other is considered the fully automatic version. So this is the setup screen.
What we're going to do today with you is we're going to show you the on-demand model, and then I'll talk you a little bit through how this is going to differ if we were going to the automated process. But obviously that works all in the background, so we wouldn't be able to show you that.
Okay, so the next component would be where we actually create a validation shift. So as some of you are aware, we have the ability in validations to see when a shift fails validation. And in certain models, you can combine two shifts into one validation rule. With the automatically award component, it does work on one individual shift. So simply enough, you just create a validation shift by name. And here we'll look at fire days. You actually select the shift that you want to apply that to. In this case, we'll keep it the same, fire days. And then replacement policy group and award replacement policy group. So we actually give you the ability to notify your first group, possibly on a more broad basis, if you will, to let everyone know it's out there. But the automated version could look at a smaller set. And that could be, as an example, if you are, say, a university where you have 3 campuses, but you want to have the automated version try and fill it only with one specific campus first, but you don't want to have to re-announce the job later. Typically, in most agencies, you'll probably leave this the same. It's kind of an advanced feature to be able to award from a different group than you send. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'm just going to go ahead and bring you over to a daily schedule. And you'll notice here in this example, we have various shifts. And I'm going to tell it to validate this screen. And right now, you'll see that we have our patrol days and our patrol nights are failing validation. But our fire days is currently passing validation. So I'm going to go ahead, and just in case you're not familiar with how validation works, we're going to go ahead and approve this compensatory time. And I'll go ahead and revalidate this shift, and you'll see now it's dropped below a minimum. And I won't go into all the setup of validation rules. That's kind of another class and something we've done for a long time. But in this instance, that final time off approved created a failure for validation for this shift. So what happens in our on-demand model is the supervisor, once again, if we're doing the on-demand version that Guy mentioned, the supervisor would go into auto create open shifts. They select what shift they want to run this for and the date. Okay, so what we have here is this shows that on the validation for fire days on the 7th of December, we have a failure of -1 for firefighter. Then what it did automatically at the bottom, it came up and said, okay, if you need to fill that, this is the open shift we need to create. And you'll notice it picked up the proper times and you know, what the skill set is, all based on a rule from before, and that it's a staffing shortage. I'm actually going to show you something pretty awesome here. I'm going to switch over to patrol nights. Now, patrol nights, as you see, we have a much higher number of people needed. But what I really wanted to point out here is we did think of, you know, some of the situations you could be in. So this really is an overnight shift, right? It starts at 6 p.m. and goes to 6 a.m. Well, you'll notice here we have, even though this is only a failure from midnight to 6 a.m., let's say on the 7th, on the 6th, we've actually also looked at the schedule to notice that the 6th from 6 p.m. to midnight is also failing. So we do bring that in down here as one entire shift. So, you know, we're looking at the entire schedule, not only for that instance that you looked at, but for the shift that this is tied to. Now, one thing I will also mention here, this is very dynamic in nature. What we've done is we constantly look, every time you hit the validate button, we constantly look to see if something has changed. So for instance, in the example that, you know, today I needed 4 people, but maybe someone now moves into a slot for us, or someone, you know, decides not to take their time off. That'll dynamically switch to 3 next time you run this, and more importantly, it'll actually cancel any of the open shift activity that's out there, with the exception of if it's already been awarded, it's awarded and you'll have to manually deal with that. But we're always looking at the schedule, we're looking for the changes, because obviously if you don't want to hire overtime or you don't need to hire overtime, we want to pull that out. So it's a very dynamic component to the software. All right, so moving along. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and create this. Now, in our fully automatic version, you would never see these screens. It's going to create all the shifts that it needs. Now, can anyone tell me, actually, when you create an open shift, how people are notified? Anyone? All right, well, I'm going to tell you how they're notified. When you create an open shift, people are notified in various ways. Number one, it could be email, it could be text. They can get automatic sign-ups right from their mobile devices. And matter of fact, this shift has been created, and it's actually sent it to my laptop. I'm sorry, to my phone. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the screen for a second. All right. I'm running off of our beta link here. This is a version that will be going up later today. And why this comes back up, what I want to do is I'm going to actually show you So real quick, I'm going to walk around and just give it, I don't know if anyone has seen these screens. So this is what you actually get on the mobile device, where someone can actually come in and sign up for an open shift. Okay, it's a really nice feature. It's getting a lot of activity. And the nice thing about this too, in these automatic or sign-ups, is people can change their mind. Up until this shift is awarded, someone can come in and decide, okay, I no longer want to take this shift, and they can change their mind, and it pulls them off of the award, or the sign-up, if you will. So it's a really nice screen. They can pick their priority, payment types, things of that nature, right from their mobile device. So just a real good piece of software that we wrote, gets a lot of activity, and anyone who starts to use it, I will promise you, the employees, if you take it away, you'll have mutiny in your hands.
Didn't actually someone say that to us at one point?
Yeah, they did,
when
actually.
They first started using this?
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, right from my phone, I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. And, oops, I'm going to go ahead and we can sign up. Now, as you know, you can also sign up for an OpenShift, whoops, right from the employee menu. And employees get to sign up for OpenShifts two ways. Number one, they can sign up from their mobile device. And number two, they can always sign up from the screens that come up here. Their OpenShifts that are available to them will appear. And I'll just kind of give you an example of how that looks. So when OpenShifts come up, that they have availability to, it'll come up and tell them why. It will come up and tell you when you're signed up or awarded as well. So the OpenShift model works very, very well. So let's go back to our process. After the employees sign up for the OpenShift, at some point in time, the supervisor would go through and work on the auto award component. And auto award is very simple. As you can see, it's just one simple button. This process would normally run if you have the fully automatic version just in the background. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and start. What it does, it looks through, it creates a log for you to monitor what's going on. It looks at different shifts it's going to find. It looks for different items that it needs to process. And it goes through and would actually award the open shift, filling the need for your shift vacancy and your validation. It will create the overtime. It then also goes in and notifies the employee that they've been awarded for that open shift. So it's really a start to finish solution. It allows you to create the open shifts, send them out, notify people, they sign up, and award it to the overtime. And then, of course, your payroll rules kick in from there. So it's really a fully automated version to help you manage those day-to-day schedule staffing shortages that occur.
Okay. Well, thank you, Scott, for that quick demo. We can show that to you later, but the point I wanted to make on that was those are two really awesome things that I feel is going to change the way overtime is created. Okay, a couple of things that I want you to hone in on is people do not have to make a decision immediately. Okay, when they get that open shift request, it's going to tell us when that job is going to be awarded. Especially if you're using the automated process, it's going to automatically award at that time that it's saying. So that person can make a decision and go back and change their mind later. Okay, and they're not stuck with that job. When we finally automate that, or when we finally award that shift, the system's going to run through the rules again in the last minute. Just because they were eligible for it when they were asked doesn't necessarily mean they're still eligible for it now. So it's going to run through it again, and it's going to say, okay, this person can work or can't work, and also it's going to whittle down your list of eligible people. So if you're running a 150 person company and you're calling 150 people to see who wants this opportunity, what we did was we emailed, text message, and also made a phone call using our PARS system, which I'm going to talk about in a second, and we found people who wanted to work, who were interested in that. And then we're taking our same rotation list, just like I talked to you about Ewing in the very beginning, and we're taking that list of people who are eligible and only working with those. So huge time savers. Even if you're not going to do a fully automated process, one of the beauties of this is that at any point you can stop and require confirmation. Okay? Maybe you don't want the shift to automatically be created. Maybe you just want to show me this is what I think you should do and have the operator say, yes, I agree with that. Or no, we can move people around. We don't have to actually create the shift. I have an extra person over here in this bureau, so I'm just going to move them over in this district or something. Or we can just allow it to create the open shift. Same thing when it's awarding the open shift. Okay, you can actually show them the list and require confirmation. Yes, we agree with the decision on the rules, because sometimes we know the rules really aren't followed all the time. Okay, we'd like to say they are, but the one thing that you are going to have to look at, it's going to save you a lot of time on the day-to-day process, but we do have to make sure the rules are correct. They have to be perfect, or else you're going to have a big problem. Okay, I don't like the word problem, but we are going to have to start searching for a new solution. Okay, if you don't have your rules right. So spend time with us, call us up. If it's something that you're interested in doing, it really is a really cool feature that we did. And that came from 2 suggestions. Okay, 2 suggestions from 2 different people. We figured out a way to put them both together to create a really awesome overtime selection process. Okay, so we want to hear from you. We want to hear of what you're what you're thinking, what's going through your mind, what you think could help us out. Don't think it's going to happen immediately. That took over a year to do. We heard about that from this time last year, and we're just rolling it out now. So there is a lot of work that has to be done. Some things are easier to make changes to, but when we see something that's going to help our clients and help our customers, we're going to do everything that we can to make that happen. Okay, just a couple of the other things before I wrap up, because I know we all want to get started on our education sessions, is when we created this new system with using text messaging and emails, we had an older system called PARS, our Personnel Audio Response System, that pretty much became obsolete at that point, because that was a system that would call for overtime, and then you would have to make a decision immediately. So we had 2 systems competing against each other, and quite frankly, I like the second one better. The first one we wrote, that was a few years ago, and that was the way they did it then. So what we did, we then took PARS, and so if you still want to make phone calls, or if you have a rule that says we require people to make phone calls, we can still do that. But what it's going to do is it's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to ask the person, are you interested in this job? So instead of getting a text message, it's going to be a phone call. Are you interested in this job? Press 1. If not, press 2. And then they go on the list just like they would have before. The other thing that we rolled out this year using PARS, text messaging, and email, as you can see, we really enjoy those 3 things, is we put in reminders. Okay, so now one thing that we're going to be doing is when somebody has to go to court, or someone has to go to training, or someone has an overtime opportunity, we're going to automatically remind them 2 hours before the job, or whatever, whatever variables you put in. So they're going to get a phone call, they're going to get a text message, they're going to get an email. So we're doing a lot of things to allow you guys to go back to what you were doing before, which is police work, firemen, whatever you were doing, and not worry about, hey, am I going to remind this person? Do I have overtime? Am I going to spend the next 4 or 5 hours filling a couple jobs? Let the system do it. Let's spend 2 or 3 days getting the rules down, getting a good understanding of what's going on, and then we'll let the system take care of the rest. Okay, so we've done a lot. That was a lot in 2017, but we're not finished. Okay? We're definitely not finished. Let's talk about the future a little bit and what we're planning on doing. Okay? So we're going to continue to look for new things to make efficiencies. Okay, so we're going to take these manual systems that we currently still have in the system and figure out a way that we're going to become more efficient. Okay, staffing should not be a task. It should not be a major job. All we're doing is saying we all live in a rules-based world. Take our rules, create whatever it needs to do, whatever we have to do to make sure we get back to the staffing levels or whatever it is. Make sure that the right people are getting hired with the right skill sets, in seniority order, whatever you're doing now, and let's let the system do that for us. Okay, let's make sure, let the system make sure that that we're doing it right. The other thing that we're working on moving into next year, and probably rest of 2017, 18, and then probably still into 19, is we're going to look at our screens and make them more user-friendly, make them more intuitive, make them so that you don't have to call us up every single time that there's a new feature there. So you can look at it and say, hey, I understand what that is. Okay, I understand what that's for. Let's leave the phone calls, let's leave the things like that to stuff that's a little bit more complex. So when you have a new user, just have to say, you just go in and put a day off. They're going to pull up that screen, and they're going to know what that means right away. The last thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our technical support system and embedding that right into our systems. So who's using the ticketing system? Or does everyone still call? Okay, so we want you to use the ticketing system. It's a really good idea to use it because that's the only way we have control of what troubles people are having. And maybe if we see what kind of troubles people are having, that we can make some enhancements so that we don't reinforce that. But the other thing that by having the ticketing system embedded into the software is that when you entered in that ticket, you did a process of things that you may not remember what you did to get to where you are, this error message or this misunderstanding or whatever it is. Well, we're going to be able to capture all that information so the technical support agent who picks up the ticket or picks up the phone call will be able to see how you got to that problem, okay? How you got there, and probably be able to assist you a lot better. So a lot of things we have planned to do to make life easier for people. I'm going to wrap up now. Before I go, I'd like to just say enjoy the rest of the conference. Okay, everyone in this room is an expert in our system, okay? In one way or another, okay? And network with your colleagues, network with the staff. The only time in the world you'll ever be able to talk to the programmer, he's sitting back there in our Genius Bar. If you have any questions, find us, talk to us. We'll be able to get you involved with the programmers. And enjoy Atlantic City, and I thank you for coming. Next up, I'm going to set stage for Scott Walter, and he's going to look at some hidden features.